There is a pattern that plays out in organization every single day. A talented professional joins a company, the leadership is charismatic, the mission is exciting, the pace feels like ambition, everything looks right. And then slowly something shifts. A comment that doesn't sit right, a meeting where the tone changes when somebody pushes back, a pattern of decisions that reward loyalty over honesty, a growing weight that something is wrong, but nothing anyone can point to, nothing that sounds serious enough to say it out loud. So the person does what smart professionals always do, rationalizes. Every workplace has problems. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I just need thicker skin. And they stay another month, another quarter, another year, and the environment quietly drains their confidence, their energy, and their sense of who they were before they walked through that door. This isn't rare. Over 50% of work environments are experienced as toxic. That's not a fringe statistic. That's the majority. And the people trapped inside aren't weak, naive, or inexperienced. They are accomplished professionals who walked into something that looked like opportunity and slowly revealed itself as something far more damaging. The problem isn't that these people lack intelligence or courage. The problem is that toxic workplaces are designed to be invisible, to look normal from the outside, to feel just tolerable enough to stay and to erode confidence so gradually that by the time someone names it, the damage is already deep. My guest today has spent years giving voice to those people. Jeff Davis is an award winning author, TEDx speaker, and mental health advocate. His latest book, The Courage to Leave, Breaking Free from Toxic Workplaces, pulls back the curtain on the hidden realities of toxic work cultures through raw, unfiltered storytelling and research backed insights. Today, we're going to be talking about the warning signs smart professionals miss, the subtle manipulation that doesn't look like abuse but functions exactly like it, why capable people stay in environments they know are destroying them, and what happens when someone finally names it but cannot walk out the door tomorrow. Jeff, welcome to the Growth Hacking Culture Podcast. It's really a pleasure to have you here.
Ivan, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
I want to jump in that statistic that I mentioned, and it's coming from you. In fact, one of the experts you interviewed for your book said something quite chilling. Over 50% of work environments he hears about are experienced as toxic. There are so many bullies and so much mobbing happening, far more than most realize. When you started writing this book, were you surprised by how widespread this actually is?
Was not surprised. And the reason for that is because, in my own experience working in companies across Washington, D.C., New York, across Europe, I experienced all this toxicity, like people manipulating, lying, and backstabbing, or for example, people being really really uncertain in terms of how they're leading, and just not really being truthful people. And I had even sometimes colleagues yelling at me as well. So I was not surprised as I interviewed all these experts around the world that they too experience it. But what I will say, Ivan, is that I was very disappointed. Disappointed that I had been speaking up about it and so few people felt safe enough to join in the conversation. And Ivan, offline, privately, off the record, after years of speaking up about this, they came to me, Jeff, you're right. These places are toxic and I'm just too scared or I'm too afraid to speak up about it. And I have total empathy for their situation. And at the same time, it was just disappointing where I was screaming into the void and no one was really joining in the conversation because of all the fear that was out there. So, no, I was not surprised, but I was disappointed that I had to go to these experts to finally find out that it is indeed prevalent and that most of the time people just don't feel safe enough to be able to speak up and say, hey, this place is toxic.
Jeff, I would say personally that 50%, I was surprised. And because of a personal experience, when I decided that my previous company was toxic for me, I used the word toxic for me, that it was just not a match. Only afterwards I understood that it is toxic for many, and as you said, who stay in silence. And it is interesting to understand this part of the of human beings is that we stay in silence because of loyalty or because we have a higher aim, which is, I don't know, financial stability. I don't want to lose my money. I'm getting paid well. It's a little bit tough. And then we reframe our reality with bullshit. What is your take on that? So, is it fear? Is it reframing? Is it loyalty? What is it that make us stay silent even when we see things that are not good?
Ivan, it's all of the above and more. It's the leadership and oftentimes the whole company. They're not willing or open to change. And again, I'm not here to put a flamethrower on these people. I'm not judging anybody, but I'm just making very honest observations based on my experience, other people's experience, and the research and data. So it's that combination of all of the above. They don't want to upset leadership. They're afraid to hit like on a LinkedIn post because they're afraid their colleagues will see it and think, oh, they're unhappy. Do they not, does he or she not like us? And it's this deep embedded fear that, oh, maybe I'm not going to be able to find another job. It's a tough market. And oh, I'd like to keep this career opportunity. Like you said, loyalty, it's a human thing, but it's so embedded into the culture that they're afraid that if they speak up and stand out, they're going to get in trouble for it or lose their job. So that's kind of the reality of it.
You know what? You made me think about something that I observe and maybe, yeah, somehow I experienced. It is the fact that when there is a process in human resources that when somebody leaves, you have an exit interview. And funny enough, people who decided to leave or who got symptoms of burnout, they were never interviewed. That I found a little bit harsh. It's
Wow.
almost like we don't want to know what is happening. We have the feeling, but we don't need to leave any traces of the people who have been leaving because they didn't like the environment. Crazy, no?
Yes, and I'll add statistics here because we're talking about both stories and actual research, and I'll share something that I talk about in my resiliency program. Deloitte has a mind-blowing statistic, and Ivan, I've checked out some of your previous podcasts. I give you so much credit that you've talked about this topic of burnout before. So big props to you for having guests on and for talking about it. Deloitte, here's the statistic. Deloitte showed in their in-depth research that 77 of people have experienced burnout in their current job, and more than 50% of employees and corporate professionals worldwide have experienced burnout more than once. So more than 50%, like I said. Mind blowing what a crisis this is and how many people are struggling with burnout worldwide. And yet they feel afraid to talk about it. And yet their company blames them for it without owning their part. And hence, here's why we're talking about it today.
Wow. There is another thing that you mention in your book, a specific pattern that you describe the environment that seems great at first, charismatic leadership, exciting mission, fast paced, and then slowly reveals itself as manipulative, hostile, or psychologically unsafe. Why is that slow reveal so effective at trapping, especially smart people?
Yes, there are four main reasons I'm going to talk about here, coming from a lot of work that I've done over decades. So, one, people tend to be very dissatisfied with their current roles. We've talked about that mind blowing research point I came across, which is that more than 50% of workplaces are toxic, and people are so dissatisfied with their current role, they're willing to take the risk to go jump to be somewhere else. And the challenge is sometimes it's going from the frying pan right into the fire. Another thing is career opportunities. So I've fallen into this trap. I work for a company in Rotterdam, Netherlands called HelloPrint, and I made the jump from a specialist role to a global manager role with people reporting into me because I was so amazed by the career opportunity. This happens to a lot of professionals, and they go in and it's a great title, but the whole place is a toxic hellhole. Ivan, I'm not here to beat around the bush. HelloPrint in Rotterdam, Netherlands was a toxic hellhole. I talk about it in the book. And by the way, I also talk about how I worked with the CEO to transform the culture there. So I have very real results here where I'm not just holding a flamethrower. I'm not just holding them accountable. I also transform the culture. Well, also, okay, career opportunity. Two more things I want to add. Market conditions. So people get stuck in these companies because they're like, oh, no, the market sucks. The market is fucking terrible, which it is. And even talented, credible professionals with master's degrees, sometimes even with PhDs, aren't able to find roles. So don't feel bad if you're struggling with the market. It's tough for just about everybody. The last thing I'll say is this: it's the slow reveal, where essentially people, they initially rationalize it. They get into that company and think, oh, it's a one off thing. And they don't see the pattern. They think it's just a one off situation. And they keep tolerating it, tolerating it, tolerating it until they're stuck in it, until they can't get out of it because they're so trapped in these patterns and they can't speak up about it because they're afraid leadership will let them go if they do.
It is incredible that most of the decisions that we take, especially in the workplace, are led or triggered by fear. It's almost like it's more in the workplace than at home. There is more divorces, percentage of divorces in Europe, than people deciding to leave their work because they have a shitty work environment. So it's easier to divorce your partner of 20 years than leaving the company who is producing stress, anguish, and burnout. Crazy that.
Yes.
You write also about this manipulative leadership as one of the core features of toxic workplaces. I want to visualize how does it look like this manipulation at the leadership level. And I don't want to talk about the obvious screaming boss, but more about the subtle, sophisticated forms that corporate professionals encounter.
Yeah. So, one subtle yet very common thing that happens in a more advanced way is gaslighting. To anyone listening, if you're not familiar with gaslighting, that's when someone will actually deny your experience. So, they'll deny the facts and they'll deny it so consistently that sometimes you end up doubting yourself. So, that gaslighting happens where you might be experiencing toxic people in the workplace. It could be backstabbing. It could be lack of collaboration. It could be broken systems. It could be communication that just doesn't happen, and you speak up about it, and they deny your experience. That's a very subtle yet common thing that happens at the leadership level. Another thing that happened both in my experience and a lot of the people that I spoke to is this fake friend paradigm. So what do I mean by that? Well, your boss or the leader, they'll pretend to be your ally and they're like, tell me. Oh, don't worry, it's a safe space. And I've had people tell me that, Jeff, it's a safe space. And it was not a safe space, and they actually weaponized my vulnerability against me. And people I've spoken to said that their vulnerability was weaponized against them. So people will pretend to have your best interest at heart, but behind the scenes, when you're not around, they'll turn on you and they'll warp your words against you. Very, very vicious tactic there. And the one more thing I'll add here to this conversation, these advanced tactics, bad leaders or bad colleagues in general, they'll do stuff that's hard to prove. Like, for example, throwing more work at you than you can handle, or leaving you out of an email, or a subtle put down in a meeting, and you don't really know how to respond because you're embarrassed in front of your colleagues. So it's like this shifting standards, shifting goalposts, and it becomes almost impossible to succeed because they keep changing parameters for you to win and succeed, but then make you seem like the problem. And then they'll go to HR and say, see, look, this person can't perform. And really, it was their own manipulation, but they tried to make you look bad. Very subtle, but extremely destructive. And it happens all the time.
I just have the opinion that it happens more often. The small little micro behaviors that are toxic, that are continuous every single day, happens more often than the big toxic behaviors that like yelling. I think that the corporate world has normalized the fact that the big screaming shouldn't be happening. But the bullying or I call it the small cuts with a piece of paper where they diminish people, that happens in a recurrent basis. No screaming. And as you say, this is a story about confusing friendship in order to get information from you in order to slap you. So they will take the information and will throw it in your face. And that happens not only at the leadership level in the operational side of the company, but also sometimes in human resources. Tell me, I'm your friend. I'm here to listen to you. If there is something wrong or you're not feeling well, comfortable with the situation, tell me. And then you tell human resources, and then, bloops, something happens. Something not expected that goes against you. What is your take about this quantity of micro toxic behaviors towards the big ones?
Yes, I love that we're doing a deep dive here because this is where it gets really juicy. This is the real meat of the dysfunction that so often goes unnamed. So let me share very briefly an example. So my dear friend Anya Smith, she's featured in my book The Courage to Leave, and it's one of my favorite stories because it's not the most extreme story in the book, but it was actually her working at Meta aka Facebook. We all know Facebook, and she shares her story working there where she was denied for a promotion over and over again despite her high performance without being given a clear reason why. And she got put down. Had people holding her pregnancy against her, which should not happen to any woman at all. Women should be able to feel safe to be able to have a baby and come back and still succeed at work. And she kept getting put down by leadership. And it got to a point where it was subtle bullying, where they made her seem like there was something wrong with her for her talents, and the very thing that she was good at actually got put down by the leadership at Meta aka Facebook. And I use this example because that's where we start to doubt our own abilities and we lose confidence. I mentioned HelloPrint. I started to lose self-esteem there. I'm being very open right now. My self-confidence went down, and this happened to a lot of people I interviewed in for the book as well, that they're in these environments and it wasn't one big thing that happened to them. It was these micro subtle bullying aggressions, subtle put downs in meetings, being left out of a lunch, being made fun of behind their back, not being respected for their talents. And over weeks and months, it took a deep effect on their self esteem. And they ended up feeling like a bag of crap. And that's what we
Mm.
have to address. And that's what we have to realize is just as insidious as outright bullying. It is not acceptable. It's not tolerable. And we have to nip that behavior in the bud before it gets worse. Because when we have one person at a company behaving like that, the entire company could end up behaving like that as well.
I also have the sentiment that certain groups of people feel the pain more than others. Because I remember Ivan at my 20s, I could get slapped like there is no tomorrow, and I was surviving, and I was at home and I could sleep well, even though something happened in the workplace. But then I'm during my career in the corporate world, I saw a lot of people in pain, women, very often women who wanted to have a family, who wanted to have kids. I have seen that people crying on that side. I have seen people in their 50s having lost all the confidence possible that they have. I have seen Gen Z suffering because they are not used to this pressurized way of doing things. So there is some pockets of population that suffer more than the standard ambitious. Or the let's say for my generation, it was around 25 to 35, maybe, where you felt like you were invisible, that you could get anything you wanted, so it was worthwhile the pain. That is terrible. Now, the other question that I am asking myself is like, there is tools out there, like if you go and Google reviews about a given company, you will find the information about the real toxic environment. So I'm not talking about companies like Best Place to Work because that, sorry, is highly manipulated. A company who pays 20Ks to do an audit, of course, you're going to get the audit right. But there is some other places where you can put reviews and see the wealth of toxicity that there could be in a company. The same company who might be best place to work in Switzerland might be maybe rated 2 stars out of 5 in a rating company, because there is more sincerity, and especially from people who doesn't have anything else to lose because they are outside of the company. And I wonder, what is happening there? Why people doesn't check before going into a new company these type of ratings, these type of reviews?
Made that mistake before. I know many others have as well. So it's out there. It's on the glass door. It's in perhaps the experience of other people who have worked there before. Why does that not stop people from going? Well, one thing that I found in talking to a lot of people is they felt like this might be bad, but it can't be as bad as my current place. And this is where a lot of people don't understand how prevalent the workplace toxicity is, where it's happening in so many companies. And this is where it gets almost tragic in a way, where people are searching on Indeed and they're applying to all these jobs and they go on 10 interviews, and interviewing is hard. And you finally get the job offer and you're so excited. So you're excited to get the job offer, and then you're excited to get out of your current workplace, like we've discussed, and they know, oh well, they rationalize, oh well, it can't be that bad, I'll be okay, or oh, but I'm going to have a big title there, it'll be fine. And it's not fine. They get caught up in all sorts of toxic dysfunction. I mentioned working at HelloPrint. Guess what, Ivan? I actually ended up working for a company even worse than HelloPrint after that one in the Netherlands. It was a corrupt company. I actually had to stand up to that corrupt company with my team of lawyers, completely insane situation, and I won. And I use this example because why did I end up getting caught in that? Well, I needed to get the heck out of HelloPrint, and that was the one option that was available to me at the time. So I find that people feel a little bit handcuffed. Their options are limited. They're excited for that career opportunity. They're ready to get the heck out of where they currently work. And when they finally get a job offer after so much rejection, after all the stress, they often put their blinders on and say, I'm going to go all in and work there. And sometimes they're heading straight for a bag of crap.
I feel you. I feel you. I have seen similar cases, and it is difficult because of the pressure to take the time to find out, to do to check everything that is correct, and or to say that nothing can be worse than my last experience. That is always worse. Now, something that I remember clearly back in the days, I remember one of my bosses telling me, you need to have thicker skin. Back in the days, it didn't affect me. But funny enough, when I became older and I left the job because of a burnout, by the way, I remember that sentence. And only then I felt the pain of that voice that didn't affect me back in my 30s. Now, we always hear in the corporate norm that is the saying of tough it out, every workplace has problems, maybe you are just not resilient enough. How much of that narrative is actually enabling toxic cultures to keep on going, giving organizations cover to avoid accountability?
Ivan, that is the narrative that enables them to avoid accountability. That is spot on. And it's such a great question because it exemplifies, it directly shows why companies continue to get away with this. So here's something I want to share here. If you experience a behavior, an interaction, a colleague, a situation, a company is toxic, it probably is. Now, while this isn't true 100% of the time, and there are nuances and gray area, it's not black and white. If you experience as someone bullying you, that's bullying, even if they deny it, even if they try to manipulate it and say, well, I didn't mean it or that wasn't my intent. So the key to remember here is that like all these burnouts are happening, but companies avoid the accountability because they're always pointing the finger. Oh, it's your fault. Oh, you're too sensitive. Oh, you're not tough enough. And they're not valuing your strengths. They're not valuing you as a person. They're actually continually reinforcing their toxic culture. And that's what I am so passionate about sharing. I went into a burnout 6 years ago in 2020. I'm much better now. I'm healed. I did a lot of research on this and I found that companies almost always tend to blame the employee, and almost always it's the company culture's fault. But the culture refuses to self reflect, to change. And that's where the dysfunction continues. They keep spitting out burned out people, but they aren't held accountable because now people are afraid to speak up, by the way. And here you can see the cycle just continues.
Very often, these companies have excellent lawyers also. It is almost impossible to go and fight back. And that is sad. That is very sad. Financial security, career progression, identity, fear of the unknown. These are the reasons people stay are real and rational. I have used, by the way, a couple of them in my head before leaving. How do you help someone see past those barriers when their brain is telling them it is safer to stay than to leave? By the way, my favorite one was financial security, which I have realized only now that it was the biggest bullshit that I have told myself.
Amazing question. I'm loving this discussion today. We're just hitting on the core of it. So I'll share a couple things here. One, your body keeps the score. If you haven't read the book by the author Bessel van der Kolk, he's actually a Dutch author. He wrote a book called Your Body Keeps the Score. What I help people see is that even though there are all these reasons they need to stay, and I understand that, I have full empathy for that. It's a difference between short term and long term. And your body actually starts to deteriorate. It's not only mental health issues, it's not only short term stress. In the long run, your lifespan will go down. This is really serious stuff. And a lot of these toxic companies are laser focused on the short run, but they're not looking at the medium or long run. So, what I help people see when I talk to them, when I work with them, when I help them is hey, your body is showing effects that you are in a really toxic situation. Yes, you need the money. Yes, I understand why you're staying, but you got to get the heck out. It doesn't mean you have to walk out on the spot, but look focused to find another job and get out. The other thing I
Mhm.
want to share, and I'll be very quick here. I'm in a really good spot here now in mid 2026. Just 1 year ago, I was actually laid off from a role for being a high performer, and I'm sharing this because at the time I was really upset. 1 year ago, Ivan, wow, I cannot believe what happened over the last year. And I hope this inspires everyone who hears this. The job I have now, my day job, next to all the consulting and speaking writing I do, not only pays more than the last role, but it also is a fantastic culture. And I have a great boss and I'm way happier. And if you told me that 1 year ago, I would have looked you in the eye. Ivan, I'm going to say it. I was upset. I would have looked you in the eye. If someone said that to me, I would have said, fuck you. I wouldn't have believed them. I would, myself 1 year ago would not have believed where I am today. I'm not saying that to make it about me. I'm saying that to inspire others that even though everything inside you is screaming, stay where you are and you're afraid. I get that. And at the same time, my experience showed me that one of the worst things that ever happened to me, a boss sabotaging me and firing me for being too good at my job, led me to finding a much better role. And that's why I'm thriving today. So I definitely hope that that will help someone who hears that story today.
Hmm. It is almost like the brain creates a fiction in order not to change.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it on the way that I did better. No, I did exactly that same mistake. I put hurdles in between me and my exit because I was hating my job, the environment for many years before I burn out. And I didn't take the decision. And that's maybe one of the biggest, my biggest regrets, thinking about this financial stability, believing that my family needed that money in order to be happy. Bullshit. They needed my presence. My
Wow.
daughter still remembers. She was 6 years old. She still remembers the travel rates that I had, and I was coming only 1 day per week during the week, and already tired, half pissed off, hating the world, and half of the time sleeping because I wasn't resting to for anything. So what I wanted to say is even though there is no solution that you can take quickly, like I leave, you can only take it only if you are completely burnout. Like me at that moment, at the moment that I felt burnout, I told them I have to leave this environment. But you don't have to wait because recovering from a burnout takes time. And once you have triggered it, it's not like you are healed. It means it's a little bit like being an alcoholic. You always have a tendency to be burnout, to find a way with bad habits to lose the control of your decision making, the control of your life. You put yourself in 10 projects at the same time and your brain is already freezing. And that can happen back at any time. So it's not about leaving a job on the spot, it's about preparing the exit. Already the preparation of what could be the things that you can do in the future helps you out in terms of relaxation, helps you out in terms of having a vision that your life is not a complete dark circle that is going to surround you.
Ivan, I mean this sincerely. I have goosebumps right now as I just listened to you share that. I actually feel an energy flow in my body that was so powerful. Huge, huge props to you for identifying that, for having the guts to realize you need to leave, and most of all, your lovely and wonderful daughter for realizing, whoa, I need to be present for my daughter and my family. That's so powerful, so incredibly powerful. I will say this: I've been in that situation many times. I've I've done some crazy stuff. I've walked out of jobs on the spot, but there have been times where I desperately needed the paycheck. I wouldn't be
Huh.
able to afford food or rent, and I'm not exaggerating. So I get that. Here's what I would say: reduce obligations. We all have life challenges. Life keeps chucking challenges at you. Reduce obligations and you focus like a laser and you say to yourself, you find the inner power and inner strength and you say, I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this for my daughter or my son or my wife or my husband or my partner, and I'm going to find another job. And that has been my one saving grace. And you can see my energy now. This is me. This is Jeff at full force. I'm going to do it for my family. I'm going to do it for my friends. I'm not going to let this toxic company win. And you become a bulldozer and you apply to 10 jobs a day, 20 jobs a day. Maybe some days you can only apply to one job a day. That's your answer. You're only as free as your well-developed options. And you become a bulldozer. My friend calls me Jeff the Bulldozer because when I put my mind to something, I'm going to do it. And you find another job. I don't mean this in some motivational kumbaya way. I have been in desperate situations, and I said I'm going to freaking find another job. My life depends on it. And I hope that came through in what I shared. Ivan, thank you so much for giving this space where I could share that.
One point that you have mentioned, I use the word of becoming minimalistic. So if you want to leave your job, you cannot keep the standards of your life. You don't need everything at the same time. What you need is to save yourself first. A little bit like in the plane where you put yourself this mask, oxygen mask. So you don't need the 2 trips in Panama or wherever you guys go for holidays. You don't need the 2 or 3 cars for the family. You tone down and become a little bit more minimalistic in order to
Yes.
prepare an exit where you feel free to say
Yes.
buy at any moment. You cannot have everything. Not everything is a priority. The priority is save yourself so that you can save your family. Thank you, man. Tell me one thing. So once you know you have named the problem, what are the practical steps to protect yourself while you are still inside? Not everyone can quit tomorrow, as we just discussed. How do you survive a toxic workplace while you plan your exit?
If you've ever seen the movie Hunger Games, it's one of my favorite movies.
Yes.
You have to get allies to survive. It's a fight for their life. And I wish I were exaggerating. I'm not. It's actually similar to the workplace where you're fighting for your own well-being. So my first tactic and tip, it's worked remarkably well for me and others. Get allies. Talk to people in your workplace privately, not in front of everybody, not in front of people who might turn it against you, but just find people that your intuition trusts. Because like we just talked about, you're going to be looking for that job. You might not find it right away. You got to stick it out in the short run while you find a new job because there are better workplaces out there. Find allies. Maybe it's the secretary who knows about office politics and can help guide you. Maybe it's a trusted person not on your team. Maybe it's a leader from another team you resonate with. Maybe it's a colleague. Maybe it's someone who reports into you and you become friends with them. Find allies. Part two of that is get allies outside of the workplace. So find trusted people in the workplace. Ivan, I've been in so many toxic workplaces. I have at least one friend from every workplace I've ever been in. And I'm so proud of myself for that because I somehow made friends even in the midst of insanity. And then so part two is make friends outside of the workplace to give perspective on it. I told you I've been in some really shitty situations in the Netherlands. And I actually talked to friends outside of those workplaces to help me get through those difficult experiences. And they gave me perspective, they gave me hope, they gave me encouragement, and they gave me validation and acknowledgement when my coworkers were trying to screw me over. So yeah, getting allies inside and outside. That's my big recommendation. That'll help keep you going. Utilize resources too. Use a hotline, talk to a therapist, talk to a trusted friend, someone, talk to anybody. I'm not here to tell you make better boundaries because sometimes boundaries are impossible in a toxic workplace, but I am here to tell you that there are people out there who are willing to help and support you.
Hmm. I want to just suggest or give my 5 cents, as people say in English. In French, doesn't work. You cannot give 5 cents in the French language. Something that I would also consider is the fact that your self-esteem has been suffering. You are hurt. You have wounds. So take some time to recover. Do something about the recovery of your self-esteem before you find the next job. You need to reconstruct yourself because people feels it. If you have been hurt because you are dealing in a toxic workplace, you are going to feel desperate. And when you have someone desperate looking for a job, the human resources people smell it. It's like looking for a girlfriend when you haven't been with a girlfriend for a long time. People will feel it, will see it. So take your time to reconstruct yourself, replace your Netflix relaxing moment into do something that will make you feel better. That means that when you feel more confident, there is many actions. And today, the cool thing is that also with AI, I don't know if you are pro AI or not, but you can find at least certain hints of recommendations about what you could watch, do in order to recover your self-esteem. If not, as you mentioned, coach, mentor outside of work.
Spot on, Ivan, and one of the best conversations I've ever had on this topic. You're amazing, Ivan. You are absolutely amazing.
Thank you, man. There is something very beautiful in your book, and you have said that kindness is not weakness. And when I hear that, I feel it in my little chest. I know that it's rooted in emotional intelligence and personal growth. For someone listening right now who feels stuck, powerless, and alone in a toxic workplace, what would you like this person to know?
What I would like you to know, if you feel stuck, powerless, and alone, is you are not the problem. You are not. It's the company. But the company is going to try to make you doubt yourself. It's going to try to gaslight you. It's going to try to manipulate you. You are not the problem. Now, you take your power back by realizing you have options. So you take your self-esteem back by realizing you're not the problem. You take your power back by realizing you have options. We've talked this whole time today about taking action. Ivan just shared being able to give yourself that space and grace to recover, giving yourself love and kindness, and realizing your talents are being disrespected and ignored by the company, but it does not mean that you lack talents. You have greatness. Now go find a workplace that will honor that greatness, because I promise you there are better workplaces out there. 1 year ago, I worked for a corporate coward who screwed me over because I worked hard at my job and he got jealous and insecure. And now I am in a company that values my greatness, that loves that I'm doing writing and speaking next to my job, and they support it. Get out there, find another job. I believe in you. I'm here for you if you need me. There are resources out there that can help you. You got this.
Hmm, that is good. Tell me, somebody wants to have a discussion with you, understand better your journey, other than reading your book, The Courage to Live. How can they reach you out and have a good chat with you?
Yes, if you resonated with this conversation, please feel free to email me directly. I respond to emails. I value questions, comments. I value the relationship. I'm happy to get on a call and just talk about it with you as well. My email is jeff@jeffdspeaks.com. That's JEFF the letter D, speaks.com. You can go to my website for lots of free resources, blog posts, and videos, jeffdspeaks.com. I am on YouTube as author Jeff Davis, and you can also find me on LinkedIn as speaker Jeff Davis as well. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you there as well.
That is great. I'm going to put all these links below this episode so you will have the link to get the book, LinkedIn profile, your email, and certainly your YouTube channel. Jeff, it was really nice to speak to you and finally to reconnect with somebody who is passionate about this toxicity in the workplace. I believe that not enough has been done, despite that pre-COVID, there was a little bit of the discussion during COVID. There was a big discussion because finally employees got the time to think about what do they want in life and decided some of them leaving the companies. Corporations did a couple of things that sometimes it was just makeup in a wound, but not enough. I think the level of toxicity of the workplace globally is quite stable still. Thank you very much, Jeff, for this beautiful discussion. I loved it.
Ivan, likewise, it's a pleasure, and I look forward to staying connected.